I wanted to be able to talk about multiple things or trends or products or solutions going on in the industry and not just be pigeonholed to one vendor, because I feel like that makes you kind of a shitty engineer. People see my content and they think like, oh my God, like you must be so smart, you're so technical, and that's not really the case at all. I break down my videos the way that I do because that's the level that I have to bring them to in order for them to make sense in my brain. The thing that people don't realize, I think, is that creating content is just as addictive as consuming content, because those are the questions that your customers are asking over and over and over and over. And why wouldn't you have an on-demand, repeatable piece of content out on the internet that's properly tagged with SEO and all of the other things that when someone Googles that question, it comes right up and they get it answered?
Global technical evangelist. What does that even mean? And is that something that you literally made up yourself when you joined Megaport?
Okay, so I get this question more than you'd think. No, being a technical evangelist is a real role. Basically, it is a real role. It's one of those roles where it's kind of a jack of all trades. So when I explain it to people, I say I sit in between sales, product, marketing, and the customer, right? So I help everyone work a little bit better together. Sometimes I work really heavily with the sales team. Sometimes I work really heavily with the marketing team. I'm plugged in with product on what's coming down the line, what direction should we be moving our product in. And then I also have an ear on the ground to the community or to our customers to make sure that everyone is working better together.
Got it.
Does
Okay.
that make
So
sense?
yes, it makes sense. So give me like at least like an idea of what a little bit of your day-to-day looks like.
Yeah. What's a day in the life? Okay, so for example, today we're planning a cloud networking summit for the fall that I'm in charge of organizing. We're going to be using it to launch the Megaport community. So that's a big part of what I'm working on right now. And today I had a call with marketing and some of our engineers around the sessions that we're going to be planning. I just got back from Cisco Live, so I also do a lot of in-person events. Just got back from Cisco Live, was out there visiting customers and, you know, spreading the word about what we do. And then later today, I'm working on some pieces of content for the Megaport page that will probably come out in about a month.
Content and technology is tough, right? Like I feel like I've made content with people in a lot of different industries, and like the more technical the industry is, typically the more difficult it is to make content. However, you are really good at taking very technical concepts and topics and creating content around them. So tell me a little bit about what your approach is when it comes to creating content in such a technical space.
Well, number one, I'm the dumbest person in the room, right? People see my content and they think like, oh my God, like you must be so smart, you're so technical, and that's not really the case at all. I break down my videos the way that I do because that's the level that I have to bring them to in order for them to make sense in my brain. It just so happens that a lot of other people also understand things the same way. So when I used to be a sales engineer, and when you're a sales engineer, there's not a whole lot of selling involved. It's really just education. You're educating your customer on the solution or on the technology. And I always really enjoyed teaching and helping people learn. So that was like a natural fit for me. And then when I started doing the content, I was like, well, can I break this down for people in a way that's more friendly for social media so that more people can benefit from the same knowledge? I mean, I can prepare for 2 hours to give this pitch to a customer, one customer. Can I take that same pitch and format it just a little bit differently so it's helpful for more people on the internet? And that's kind of how the whole thing started.
Tell me what motivated you to start creating content? And like, where were you working? Like, what were you doing? Like, what role were you in when you decided, hey, I'm going to start making content on the internet about,
Technology.
technology? Yeah, yeah.
So I used to be a sales engineer at Cisco. And the way I originally, it was like the actual villain origin story. The way I actually got started was marketing. The Cisco marketing team was standing up a TikTok and they needed some help creating technical memes for the TikTok. And I had resisted downloading TikTok the entire pandemic. Like early TikTok 2020, 2021, I completely missed out on. But I was like, wow, this could be a really good opportunity. I'll cave and download it. I can make some memes. How hard could it be? And the thing that people don't realize, I think, is that creating content is just as addictive as consuming content. And so the more memes I made, the more memes I made. And eventually I was making so many technical memes, I'd send them to the marketing team and they'd be like, "These aren't funny. Like, these aren't funny. Can you make them more broad or more generic?" And I was like, "No, they're for engineers. Like, these are memes for engineers. It's just funny because you don't understand it. Like, that's the only reason you don't think it's funny." And so I created a burner account to post my memes that they refused to post to show that they were funny and people would enjoy them. And then when they performed well, I'd be like, haha, see, it was funny. Um, and what happened
Wow.
is, like, I didn't start out with the whole, "Hey, let me explain whatever." I literally started making memes and voiceovers. Like, I didn't like talking on camera. I didn't like the sound of my voice. I didn't like the way my face moved or my mouth moved or the things I did with my hands. Like, none of that came natural. But when I was making these technical memes, people realized that I was a Cisco SE, and they DM me for help. "Hey, I have this tack case. Hey, I need to order something. Hey, have you run into this bug before? Hey, what are you seeing with blah?" And I realized that the same content and presentations I was giving for my customers at Cisco, I could repurpose for people on the internet who maybe didn't have that dedicated support or didn't have the same level of resources to learn. And that's kind of where the whole thing took off.
Yeah, and then obviously, like, I've seen that you've done a ton of content for Cisco. How did that happen? How did you go to them and say, "Hey, look, people are asking me for this. How can I take this into my role and what I'm doing for you guys? And how can I guess, be an evangelist
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
for the
I
company?"
didn't I didn't really ask. I mean, it was part of talking to customers and being customer facing was part of my job as a solutions engineer, sales engineer, whatever you wanna call it. And so as long as I was talking about things that were public facing on the internet, anything that I talked about, I always made sure there was some documentation, a blog, some sort of reference that I could refer back to and say, "Hey, look, this was public. It is public." Um, there was really no reason to ask for permission. It was all public information. It just happened to be what I was doing in my role, and it worked really nicely with, what was online.
That's interesting because I feel like a lot of people that are W-2 employees and working for a large company like a Cisco wouldn't even think about creating content because they're like, "Oh, I don't know how my company is gonna perceive this. Like, do they think I'm trying to be like this influencer kind of thing?" What is your, I guess, advice to anybody who is working for a company right now and is thinking about maybe getting on the content train? Like, what do you suggest for them?
Yeah, I think it's and, looking back, my journey was my journey, it's how I did it. I can't say it would have worked if I did it any other way, but you wanna be thinking about building your brand around you and your career. You should be posting about what you're doing at your company because it helps promote your expertise as an individual, not the company. And that's something I've tried to be really careful about. Even now moving towards Megaport, my company I work for now is you are talking about your expertise from a personal standpoint. You're not just plugging away for your company. I mean, your company has a $1,000,000 marketing team that has anywhere from 20 to hundreds of employees, and their full-time job is to go out and advocate for the brand on the brand's base like, on a daily basis. That's their whole job is to market for your company. You don't also need to market for your company. You need to market for yourself. You can do that through a lens of what you're doing or what technology you're working with or what your expertise is or what software you're using at your company. But it should always be through a lens of this is what I'm doing using insert product or service here. And this is how it helped me learn, or this is how it advanced my career. It's more about you than it is about them.
Beautiful. So do you think that more companies should get on board with, like, their employees doing content? And how do they get on board with
Yeah.
employees doing content? And, like, how do they encourage people to do it?
Three-part question, Danny.
Sorry.
No, 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 no. It is a loaded question. Do I think companies should be encouraging their employees to post on social media about their career? 110%. Like, beyond the shadow of a doubt. It is one of the most powerful, authentic marketing tools that you could have in your toolbox because no matter what your brand posts or what post comes out of the brand page, it's going to be looked at as a brand post, and you cannot replicate the same level of personability, authenticity, like, realness that you can from an employee standpoint without having the employee go out and post on their own. The caveat is that you need to trust the employee to go and post on their own. You,
Right.
as marketing, cannot give the employee blanket posts to go copy paste into LinkedIn. It doesn't work. You cannot approve the things that they write. It is their personal LinkedIn. They should have the autonomy to post what they want. It's their personal page. Um, as a brand, like, you should not have any authority over what your employees are saying online. You can give them the tools to do so, and then you almost have to trust in good faith that they're going to take care of your company brand. And marketers get really nervous about that. Like, really nervous about that because it comes down to, brand voice and control. How can I control the narrative of how my brand is appearing online if we're encouraging these employees to go out and we don't have absolute, like, dominion over what they're saying? And to that point, you have your sales team running around at dinner with customers every single day. That's what they do. And you trust them, right? And that was kind
Right.
of my, when I mean, even now working at Megaport, when I worked at Cisco, if I wouldn't say it to a customer face to face over dinner, I won't say it on the internet. That's like my line in the sand. But you have to trust your employees to be able to do that.
And that's good advice to give the employees. It's like, if this isn't something that you would say in front of one of our customers, then
Right.
don't say it online. I mean, that's a pretty good guideline. I guess there's obviously some risk involved for the company, right? I think that's what they worry about is that there's some risk, like,
Anything worth doing has a risk associated.
right.
That's
And
just
that's the
life.
but that's the question is like, is it worth the risk? And like, honestly, like, I think you're kind of proof of that it is. Because I mean, what do you have? Like 400,000 followers across like how many platforms?
I think like 250-ish, but I appreciate that.
Yeah, all right. Well, somewhere in, I mean, you have built an incredible brand and like an incredible following in a very like niche and technical space, which is very difficult to do, right? When you are kind of thinking about your content and what you're putting out there now, like what is some of the thought process that you go through like when you sit down to create a piece of content?
It's a lot simpler than you would think. When I it's a little let me go I'll answer that again. So the way I started creating content and the way I create content now are a little bit different. When I first started creating content, the process was super simple. It was a customer has this question. I'm sure that more customers also have this question. If I'm answering it for one person, I can answer it for multiple. And that was it. Right? If you I strongly believe if you took your top 25 questions, if you go into Gong and you look at like what your frequently asked questions from your customers are in every single intro sales call, and you created a piece of content about all 25 of them, end game. It would be over, right? Because those are the questions that your customers are asking over and over and over and over. And why wouldn't you have an on demand, repeatable piece of content out on the internet that's properly tagged with SEO and all of the other things that when someone Googles that question, it comes right up and they get it answered? Now, when I create content now, it is that plus what's trending in the industry. What do I like? What am I dealing with in my day to day? Just naturally because my role has changed a little bit. So when I was working at Cisco, I was covering, I don't know, I like to joke like 75 different technologies, route switch, wireless data center, security, collaboration, like all these different things. And the caveat was I could only talk about Cisco. Now, there was no papers I signed saying I could not go promote a Cisco competitor online, but by nature, if I went and talked about one of our competitors, I'm sure I'd get a call from my sales leader that said, what do you think you're doing?"
Right.
Right? Now that I've come to Megaport, we're vendor agnostic. We partner with hundreds of companies all over the industry, so I can realistically talk about any technology that I'd like. However, I'm not working with as many of them day to day, and so my research process just looks a little bit differently because of that. It's like a double-edged sword.
Was that a factor in your decision? in like leaving Cisco and going to Megaport, knowing that you were going to have like a little bit more freedom to talk about more things in the industry?
Yeah, 100%. My time at Cisco was coming to an end for multiple reasons. But even if it didn't end the way that it did, it probably wouldn't have been long before I decided to go out either on my own or look into another company. Just because they own so much of the market. Like you cannot work in IT without working on some level of Cisco products. But there was an old saying when I was an SE is that, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail. If you only have a hammer, everything's a nail. It might not be the best tool for the job, but if that's all you have, that's what you're gonna work with. And as an engineer and also as someone who's got this large following somehow, I wanted to be able to talk about multiple things or trends or products or solutions going on in the industry and not just be pigeonholed to one vendor. Because I feel like that makes you kind of a shitty engineer, right? If you're a one trick pony and you only know one thing, how can you know that you're making the best recommendation for your customer? And so I was either going to go to a company like Megaport that supports a lot of different technologies, or probably a partner or a reseller. Those were the two, or work for myself. Those were kind of the options that were on the table.
Yo, yo, if you are a founder and expert who really understands how important video is to grow your business, but you don't have time to mess around with cameras, write scripts, do video editing, or blow your entire budget on a fancy film crew, that's exactly what we help with Add Video on Easy Mode. You are literally watching how it works in this episode right now. We make it easy to create high quality, natural video content to help you grow your business and grow your brand without leaving the comfort of your home or office. So if this sounds like something that your business can use right now, either scan the QR code or hit the link in the description. It's all remote. All you got to do is show up to a virtual studio, hang out with me for about an hour, and you're going to get a month's worth of videos. And let's get back into the interview. So how do you think that you were able to crack the code on multiple platforms? Again, like you're pushing close to 100,000 on TikTok and on LinkedIn, and you have 100,000 just about on Instagram or whatever. So like you have success across multiple platforms. Are you approaching the different platforms differently? Are you replicating content across? Like how are
It
you
is
looking
it
at that?
is almost the exact same content copy pasted on 3 platforms. I don't use any automation. I log in myself. When people ask why I'm not on YouTube, I say it's because I don't have more time. Like, I don't
Yeah.
I cannot adopt a 4th platform because I just don't have the bandwidth for it right now. But to someone getting started, like, I get asked all the time, how do I pick? Where should I start creating? Do I need to wake up every day and post on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram just to grow on all 3? And by nature of social media, the platform expects you to be social. It expects you to log in and engage with other people's content and leave comments and interact and watch and engage. And you only have so much attention. So to spread like peanut butter, spread that over YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, um, Substack. There's only so many things you can do. And so I call it favorite child. You pick a favorite child. So if my favorite platform when I started was TikTok. I liked TikTok, and so that's where I started creating. Why? I was familiar with the ins and outs of it. I was familiar with the vibe and how people interacted with each other. I got the inside jokes. I was in on the trends. You're going to inherently be more successful creating on a platform where you enjoy consuming content just because you understand how the interaction works. And once you pick it up on one, sure, adopt a second child. So mine was TikTok and then LinkedIn. And then what happened was people on LinkedIn were like, "I really like your memes. Can you post more?" And I was like, "Well, not every meme is appropriate for LinkedIn." So that's when I started the Instagram. But you can't wake up and engage on all 3. It's really, really difficult.
Right.
So when you're just getting started, pick a favorite. And then maybe in 2 or 3 months, you can shift your attention and then shift your attention again. And I still do that now. So right now, I'm prioritizing Instagram, or not Instagram, I'm prioritizing LinkedIn. Especially as a B2B creator, I think that LinkedIn is on the up and up. And so mostly TikTok and Instagram have just become reposts of my LinkedIn. Now maybe in 3 months I get sick of it, I decide to focus on Instagram again or TikTok, but you can't focus on all 3 at the same time.
I hear that. I've been there too. Like I started on Instagram. I was not doing what you were doing, and the fact like I was hiding on LinkedIn because I'm like I didn't want my boss and his boss and their boss and all my peers knowing like that I had like a little side business going
Mhm.
on. So it's a very different kind of scenario, and I think you have like an interesting perspective versus a lot of people who are trying to use these platforms and create content for like either their side business that they're trying to build, which they may be keeping a secret from their employer, right? Do you think that you have an advantage knowing that like you are not creating content to drive revenue to your own business?
It's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, I know people who were creating content on the side, who worked in tech and got fired. Their business had nothing to do with what they were doing in tech, but their employer just didn't like them having a second job, and so they found a way to manage them out, or
Right.
just straight up fired them and said, "Hey, this is a liability for the company, and we don't want you doing it. There's the hammer." Uh, it's really going to depend on your industry, on your company, on your boss. Like, I know, especially in, like, the financial industry, if you're working in finance, they really don't like it. They really don't like it. Even if you're not talking about anything related to finance at all, they really don't like it. Um, and so use it with grain of salt. I do think that there's a lot of ways to get creative and not put your face on camera. Think about how many
That is
faceless
true.
creators are out there.
I know there are people that are making millions and millions of dollars with faceless YouTube channels
You're
and
If you wanna do it, there's a way to get creative and do it, but tread lightly. Not saying you should necessarily ask for permission unless you know it's going to be an issue, but don't put yourself in a situation where you're getting fired for your side gig when you're not making any money from it.
right, right. That makes sense. So, do you think that you're able to create better content or be more creative or be more experimental, like knowing that your content is not designed to drive revenue? The reason that a lot of people post is because they want their content to generate leads and drive revenue for their business, right?
It definitely makes it easier because 'cause I'm not as hungry.
Does it allow you to be like more like have more creative freedom and do things differently?
I would say yes, just in the sense that I can experiment with different things and not be as worried if it flops. I don't have to be very diligent about, "Okay, well, it's my 1 shot a week to post my hard sell."
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Now I do sponsored content, which is really nice. I'm paying off my student loan with it, which has been wonderful. Um, and I do like to circle back around. Again, I work for Megaport. People know I work for Megaport. I went out to this conference last week. I got asked probably 50 times, "So what do you guys actually do?" And I was like, "Well, I should probably tell the Megaport story straight up just a little bit more." Right? Um, but it is nice not needing to make money from the platform. Obviously, one day I'm hoping that comes where I can run my own business completely online. But in the meantime, it's nice to be able to float without it.
Yeah, and it'll be nice to have a 500,000 followers by the time you have your own business.
Yeah,
Like, have that audience, like, built in. Been doing this for 4 years, creating content and everything like that, and I know that when you are not trying to make money with your content tends to typically come out better.
people people can feel it.
You do a lot of different formats and you got started with the memes, but you've obviously graduated from there. What right now is your favorite format or style that you really like to do the most? I know you do the vlogs, I know you do the man on the street.
I
I like
love I think I'm most well known for the talking head videos. I think those are the most educational. I really like day in the lives because I think they show you like, I'm nosy. I like watching other people's day in the life, right? But I
yeah.
think it's a really compelling tool, especially to show people what your career could look like. if I pursue this degree or if I get this job, like, this is what my day could look like. And I think that's super educational and valuable, especially for younger students. Like, I was gonna be an aerospace engineer. I didn't know it. I sounded cool. I'm gonna go work for Boeing and be an aerospace engineer. I didn't know what that actually looked like, right? And so now we have this opportunity where, these younger kids who are picking careers can see behind the scenes what's it look like to be a dentist or a lawyer or to work in tech or to be a product manager or to be an evangelist, right? The flexibility, the career options, the lifestyle choices, like, you almost get, like, a behind the scenes look, and so I'm trying to incorporate more of that, and then I've also been the man on the street content's fun because it doesn't take a ton of planning.
Yeah.
A lot of other content, it's a lot of editing, a lot of planning, and so man on the street is one of my favorites just because it's easy. And then the event style content, I just did another event wrap up for Cisco Live, and it's fun. I get the opportunity to go out to all of these events, through my company, and so it's fun to bring people along and give them a rundown of what I saw out there.
Cool. So this one's going to be a really selfish one because, like I said, I work with a lot of people in tech, and obviously my job is to help them communicate on camera, right? What's your best advice to help these people communicate their message and simplify it a little bit so that people can actually understand it and they're not what I call speaking IT?
I write everything out.
You
So
do?
sometimes I do bullet points, sometimes I do a full script. I write it all out. I have to because it's the only way I can make my brain make sense of it in that short of an amount of time without rambling. I felt that when I was preparing, so, like, you go and study, I would go learn a topic, I would take notes, I'd take my notes, I'd turn it into a script, and then I'd condense and condense and condense and condense until finally I was like, "Okay, I think I got the majority of this. It still makes sense and it's concise." And I found that it made me better at my demos. Like,
Mm.
because think about it, when you're on a sales call with a customer, they don't wanna sit and listen to you ramble. So for every piece of your demo, if you can get to the point in a minute or 2 minutes or less and say, "Okay, here's this feature. This is why you should care. This is how it impacts you, and here's the 3 things you should know about it." And you just break a 15-minute long demo up into those 2 or 3-minute segments based on the top 25 questions your customer usually asks when they see the demo. It's gonna make you a more effective engineer, a more effective communicator, a more effective salesperson. Um, and even working with some other engineers at my company now, coaching them on how to make content, I sat down with one of our senior SEs at Megaport, helped him make a video. He wrote a blog with AWS. I sat down, I helped turn it into a video, taught him how to record it, and he was like, "This has completely changed the way I get asked to record Loom videos, and it would take me 15 minutes to get to the point." And he's like, "I can do it in less than 5 now." He's like, "It's completely changed the way I think about it."
That's a huge difference because, well, first off, it's easier for him to go ahead and do a 5-minute video than a 15-minute one,
Right?
and it's much more consumable. Whoever you're, sending your video to, they're busy. They've got all the stuff that they've got going on in their day. They can be like, I can block 5 minutes out,
Get to the
but
point.
15 is another story.
Exactly. Exactly.
As we kind of close out here, give me your kind of number one piece of advice for anybody again that's like really interested in getting out there creating content that feels like they may be in an industry that's a little bit too technical or maybe even a little boring. What's your advice to them?
I mean, it's gonna sound kinda cliche, but just get started, right? When I first started making memes, I had no idea that it was going to take off like this. Also, there's a lot more people who work in your industry than you think, right? And the algorithms are designed in such a way that your content will get carried to the right people. It just takes a little bit of trust, and you just have to keep showing up. Just because you put out your first 25 videos and they all tanked, it doesn't mean your next 25 are gonna tank too. Sometimes it just takes a little bit to pick up traction, because ultimately, you know, these platforms are incentivized to keep people on them, right? And that means they need to show their audience content that they like. And so when you continuously show up, it really is a consistency thing because eventually there are people who will like your content.
They just
There
got to
are.
find,
It
they
just
just got to
it just
find you.
takes the algorithm a little bit to find them. So
Beautiful. It's got to adjust to you and what you put out there, right?
And you become better over time as well, but
That's true.
you really do just have to start.
What's like the best place for people to find you and keep up with you these days? I know there's a bunch.
Um, well, for all of the professional things, probably LinkedIn. Instagram and TikTok get the same content, just pick your poison. I do like posting on Instagram stories, and I forget that TikTok has stories. So, if that persuades you one way or the other,
If there's one thing that I would want LinkedIn to add, that's what it is.
stories.
Yeah, because I'll explain why really quickly. Is because I think LinkedIn wants to figure out how to incorporate more video content into their platform. And I think that a lot of people on LinkedIn are not really comfortable on video content yet because we haven't had the boom of video content like you obviously have on TikTok and Instagram. And I think stories is one of the best ways for people to get comfortable with their video content because it disappears in 24 hours. So, like, there's no pressure to like create a perfect post, and you get a lot more just like kind of like raw, just, hey, I just came out of a meeting and this is what I was talking about and this is what we were working on. And I really wish LinkedIn would bring back stories. I may be one of the only people that thinks that, but
I have a laundry list of things I would take before stories, but I hope they add them back just for you, Jen.
just for me. Oh, there you. Well, Alexis, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll put all your links down in the
Cool.
description and everything here. Keep doing your thing. Keep doing those sponsored posts and paying off those loans,
Hopefully.
and keep growing. And I will see you around.